Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see you. Let me ask you this question first. Everyone would like to live a very happy and free life. But the thing is, the reality is, not many people live in that way. So what do you think is the reason? I would like to put in this way, the reason why people cannot live a very happy and free life is twofold. One, they do not know the exact path. They think they know, but they may not necessarily know the exact path. Usually, once in a week, I go to YMCA to swim around our retreat center. I have been there for more than 5 years. But several months ago, one day I discovered there is a side door which is very close to the parking lot. For more than 5 years, I just used the front door. Yeah. But what's the big deal? I can walk a couple of more minutes. But knowing the exact path to complete the liberation or freedom can be very big deal. The first reason, we may not know the exact path. The second reason might be, even though we know the path, people usually do not actually walk the path. Knowing is one thing, and actualizing something we know is another thing. Or think about how to lose weight and get a healthier life. Most of the people know. Or how about changing our bad habit? We know how to break our bad habit. Or how about your New Year resolution? We may actually know how to break our bad habits, lose the weight, etc. But actualizing is another matter. So the first one, not knowing the exact path. Many people think if they would become more successful, like getting better career, for example, or making more money, then they would become happier. Many people think in that way. It's not that wrong. But lots of study says the opposite thing. You should become happy first in order to become successful. For example, one of the elements of happiness or success can be the level of income. One professor in psychology department in Yonsei University, which is very prestigious university in Korea, he studied this one. He focused one small elementary school in Gyeongnam province. Each and every year, the class number is not more than, the whole class not more than 50. So for 20 years, he researched the income of that elementary school's graduate And what was the primary element that decide the income level of that graduate? So, for example, the student's IQ, you can get the number very easily from the school. Or their grade, how good or poor they did in school. It's easily quantified and easily get the record. And the third element, the teacher's evaluation of the student conduct. Usually at the end of the semester, teachers write several lines, how positive or how diligent, how their students getting along with other students, etc. Many teachers don't write that in a serious way, but still he can get that data. And his conclusion for a very large student group was the graduate's income level has nothing to do with the student's level of IQ. Their academic achievement, their grade, is somewhat related, but not that significant, at the least to the level of their income. Surprisingly to that professor, the most significant element was the teacher's evaluation of the student conduct. If the students were very positive about himself or around his environment, or having a very good relationship with his friend, then they would become very likely to make a lot of money. So there is lots of other studies. For example, in America, one of the research, it's called the non-research. One of the elements of our happiness is health. If we are very sick, then we cannot enjoy our life. So in that order, the nuns, before they ordained that night, they write something, their aspiration, how they feel, etc. Just less than one page thing. So that professor collected that writing and gave a grade from 1 to 4. 4 is the highest number. For example, the writing is very positive. For one nun, I'm very happy to become a Catholic nun. I'm really excited about what's unfolding in my future. He gave a 4. Or some nun he discovers wrote, whether I like it or not, this is the calling. I already see lots of challenges in our life, in my life. Number 1, very negative. So when he studied more than 200 nuns, he discovered a very interesting correlation. The more positive they are, the older they live. Their lifespan expectation is far higher. Very close and exact correlation. So the positive nuns tended to live far more healthier and longer life. So whether it is income or health, when I become more healthier or make more money, I will become happier. But the reality is you have to become first happy in order to make more money, successful, or healthier, etc. How can we expect everything go our way? So that's why we need to carry out the mind practice, working with our mind. What is the Buddhist practice? It's a mind practice. Let me read our founding master's one verse. One who wanted to have all things in the world just as one wished them to be is just as foolish as a person who builds a house on a sand and wishes to live in splendor for thousands of years. Wise persons will be contented and grateful if only 6/10 of all things in the world satisfy them. They will also be thoughtful enough not to monopolize the things that please them, but to share them with other people. Thus, the things that satisfy them will never become a cause of suffering, but the blessings will be infinite. Several years ago, when I practiced yoga, I hurt my back very badly at the time. The bathroom is next to my room. But even going to the bathroom was very hard. So I thought to myself, I wish I can go to the bathroom very comfortably. I don't want anything else. So my colleague brought food, meals to my room. Several days later, it became no problem for me comfortably to use the bathroom, even though I could not walk freely. So my wish was changed. I wish I could walk very freely so that I could go to the dining hall on my own. 1 week later, I had no problem to walk to the dining hall, even though I could not run or do some exercise. Then I thought to myself, I wish I could work out very freely. I wish I could climb to the mountain. So it's a very small case, but our mind cannot satisfy in the present condition or environment. We always expect something, expect some more idea, better environment or external conditions. Yeah. So in order to enjoy our life, we have to work with our mind. That is the first path. The second thing, walking the path. For example, is it that easy to practice meditation on a regular basis? Or maintaining mindfulness in some areas? Or forgiving others? Or putting into action what we already know it's right. How do you think? These are easy things. That's why Jesus said, your mind is willing, but your body is weak. That's why we need to train our mind. Train our mind. Just like we train our body in order to strengthen our muscle in the gym. We really need to train our mind. Spiritual practice, training practice, is the translated word for Hulian, the Chinese character, Hulian. Hulian literally means doing something repeatedly until you become used to it. I think that literal meaning is very exact, very fitting to spiritual practice or training. Doing something in a repeated way until we become accustomed to that. 5 years ago, Boston wonbuddhist minister was bitten by a dog, very big dog, in the nearby park. She was bitten on her neck. She was immediately went to the ER. She told us she was so surprised. In the ER, there are so many people who came there because they were bitten by dogs. Most of dogs are around us are very friendly. Untrained dog is very dangerous. In the ER, there are not people who are bitten by lions or hyenas, but why many people go there? Because they were bitten by dogs. Because lions, hyenas, they are far more fierce, stronger animal, but they are not around us. Dogs are around us. But think about that. Untrained dogs around us can cause a lot of harm to us. How much untrained mind, our mind, can harm our life? Untrained mind. Buddha said, nothing is more beneficial than training our mind. Nothing is more harmful than untrained mind. From one perspective, we can say the source of all our suffering and agony is maybe untrained mind. Untrained mind. So, what does that mean specifically, training our mind? In Buddhism, we usually say that threefold practice or threefold training, making our mind calm and focused, peaceful. That's the spiritual cultivation part. The second, making our mind bright and wise, the cultivation of wisdom part. The third, making our mind righteous, compassionate. We need to use our mind in that way. In wonbuddhism, we call that mindful choice in action. Let me show you this photo. Several decades ago, when I was in elementary, there was a Korean government project, excavate a sunk ship in Sinan. That's a small port in the western side of the Korean peninsula. The story goes like this. One elementary school teacher went to his friend's house who lives in Sinan Port, the seashore, small village. He discovered the dog food dish. That dog food dish is some porcelain, some china, even though it's broken and has many scratches. So he asked to his friend, where did you get that? He said, well, in front of my house, when the tide is low, on the seashore we see a lot of broken china. So he asked, it looks pretty priceless. But he did not study in that area. So why don't you give one of your dog food dish, that bowl, to me? Yeah, I have many, and he get that. And he showed that to his friend who is a museum curator. And it turned out it's a priceless china made in Ming Dynasty. It turned out that merchant ship with a full china porcelain, they left some port in China, was about to go to Japan. And since the ship encountered a serious storm, it just sunk in front of the western side of the Korea. But eastern side of the Korea, the water is very clear. It's pretty deep. The western side, because of the Yellow River, and the water is very murky. So this is the original ship that sunk in front of the Shinan seashore. So it took more than 10 years to excavate all those things. For example, this kind of china. Just like the cave of Qumran, they have to write Christianity or Bible history. Again, it's a very important turning point to know all this China history. There are so many porcelains in China. Just for those chinas and the porcelain, there is a special museum was built. Lots of this kind of, just from that merchant ship. Many of them are on display in some museums in Seoul. So our original mind is just like this china, very priceless. But when it is not trained, when it is not disciplined, then it may look like this one. So usually, just like his friend did not know the value of the china, most of the people does not know the value of our original mind. So discovering our original mind is the cultivation of wisdom, enlightenment area. And then this kind of a dirty china should be cleansed. It should be washed. It's like a spiritual cultivation, like a meditation or chanting. And then you can sell this china, or you can display it in some museum. We have to use our mind very well. That's the mindful choice area. It's a so-called threefold practice, threefold training. Our third head Dharma master, Venerable Dosung, said, the path to liberation, attaining Buddhahood is always one and the same. It's always a threefold practice. different tradition named that differently, but the path is always the same, threefold practice. So I sincerely hope and pray that, for example, in order to carry out threefold practice, we need to become more skillful, and it needs to be more efficient. Some of you come to our One Dharma Center for retreat. You saw our cat, Hemi? Hemi, nice cat. When you see Hemi, which means happy cat, Hemi, it also practice. It also performs threefold practice. I watched very carefully. Usually he catch 1 or 2 mice every day. When he spot mouse, he stop his action. He very quietly wait, focusing on that mouse. That's the spiritual cultivation, quieting his mind. And then he think about how to catch that mouse. That's the wisdom part. And then at that exact moment, he just jump without any hesitation. That's the mindful choice, mindful action part. Whether average person, practitioner, Buddhist, Christian, they all practice threefold practice knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously. But when you train yourself, when we learn the subject, for example, when you come here, you can practice the meditation at home. You can chant. Chanting in a group, meditation group can be better. You can read the scripture, but after scripture, having Dharma conversation, deepen your understanding. If we use these subjects, in wonbuddhism, we have 11 subjects from chanting, meditation, scripture study, working with the cornet, etc. Then we can more systematically, more deeply perform threefold practice to attain enlightenment or liberation. So I hope you continue to practice these threefold training to attain complete liberation. Okay, thank you.